So we practice the principles of yoga in my program, which just so happen to coincide with many of the principles of the recovery process. So we're not in there doing asanas, postures. We're not using yoga mats and doing that part of the practice. We're using the philosophy, the meditation aspects of yoga. Yoga is meditation in motion. The vast majority of the practices of yoga don't happen on a mat. They happen in the context of our ordinary daily lives. So an example, there's one of the limbs of yoga is called the yamas, and then there's another one called the niyamas. So they're about various practices which coincide with principles of recovery. One just off the top of my head would be non-hoarding. And non-hoarding in terms of recovery would be about not necessarily believing this idea that I need euphoria all the time, which is what addiction is about. Addiction is about the refusal to feel any feeling that isn't euphoric. And so that's hoarding a positive feeling. But euphoria is most often a really artificial feeling. Certainly with drugs and alcohol, it's synthetically created. So if we're going to practice non-hoarding, we're going to practice all the feelings on the human spectrum, of which euphoria comes and goes briefly, and it's organic when it comes and goes, but it's not constant. So by practicing non-hoarding, I'm accepting the fact that there's a full spectrum of human emotions that I can be open to, whether or not my ego likes them. So even though we don't practice the asanas of yoga in my program, I'm often encouraging people to go to a yoga studio and practice physical yoga, and not just for the physical postures. The whole idea of practicing yoga is to be aware of self-talk, for example. If a teacher calls a pose and it's a challenging pose for me, what am I telling myself about that? I'm no good, I'm not accepting my body, when really the practice of yoga is to accept myself as I am at this point in time. And it's not about striking a pose, it's about striking a positive, compassionate relationship with myself, in spite of that pose maybe. But yes, I am very often encouraging people to do lots of different things outside of my program, like yoga practice, because it gets us out of our element. It helps us become aware of how much more there is to life besides our drugs of choice. People often feel this profound sense of grief. Now what am I going to do? I'm not drinking anymore. Well, there's a whole world out there that we've had blinders on and just literally don't see until we choose to go look at it or participate in it. And yoga is an amazing example of one of those possibilities.